नमस्कार, आप देख रहे हैं द राइट न्यूज़ और मैं हूं रोहित भट्ट और द राइट कन्वर्सेशन में आज हमारे बीच में बातचीत करने के लिए विजय सजावल जी हैं, जो कि एनालिस्ट हैं और सोशल एक्टिविस्ट हैं। प्लस ये हु वर्क्स वेरी क्लोजली विद वैली बेस्ड कश्मीरी पंडित्स। इन्होंने कश्मीर को बहुत नज़दीक से देखा है, कश्मीर के हालातों पे इन्होंने बार-बार चर्चा की है और आज बहुत समय बाद हमारे साथ हमारे बीच में हमारे व्यूअर्स से अपने विचार साझा करने के लिए हमारे साथ हैं। सबसे पहले विजय जी, आपका बहुत-बहुत स्वागत है द राइट न्यूज़ में।
Thank you very much. My pleasure to be here with your leaders, listeners, and viewers. I always enjoy this show, and I'm sure so are the people that watch this show.
जी, विजय जी, हमारा पहला सवाल आपसे ये रहेगा कि क्योंकि हमारे बहुत सारे व्यूअर्स हैं जो जानना चाहेंगे कि आपकी राय क्या है जो 370 के बाद आज के हालात, इतने सालों के बाद जो आज कश्मीर है, जो आज हम कश्मीर देखते हैं जहाँ लाल चौक में इवेंट्स होते हैं रात को। खुद मैं पर्सनली अगर मेरी बात करें आप, तो मैं वहाँ जाके मैंने विजिट किया है रात को 10-10, 11-11 बजे रात को। वहाँ पे लोग होते हैं, लोकल्स होते हैं जो एन्जॉय करते हैं लाल चौक में, या आप वहाँ पे पोलो व्यू जो बना हुआ है नया, वहाँ पे लोग होते हैं। तो किस नज़रिए से ओवरऑल ये बहुत बड़ी अचीवमेंट है गवर्नमेंट की, जो आज हालात है वहाँ पे?
बिल्कुल है, ये अचीवमेंट तो बड़ी सिग्निफिकेंट है एक्चुअली। लोगों को फाइनली पता चल गया कि व्हाट इज द चॉइस जो है उनके लिए, क्या होनी चाहिए, वो क्या करना चाहिए, कैसे होना चाहिए, क्या हो सकता है, पीस डिविडेंड में क्या हो सकता है। मैं जब लास्ट ट्रिप वहाँ था अबाउट ईयर एंड हाफ बैक, मैं क्रॉस सेक्शन ऑफ पीपल से मिला, जर्नलिस्ट, सिविल सोसाइटी, लॉयर्स, इंडस्ट्रियलिस्ट, सब यही कह रहे थे कि दिस इज अ न्यू कश्मीर and everybody is really doing good economically. It is getting vibrant. और तो तभी है जब ये आप इन पॉलिटिशियंस का सुनते हैं कि there has been no development in Kashmir, there is nothing going on. ये तो you can see that they are not just being blind, they are simply being one dimensional, क्योंकि they lost a lot of power and authority, and that's what has happened. Now, Roji, even after saying that, though, does it make me feel good? Of course it does. But do I say that things are, going in the right direction? They probably are. But मैं अभी भी यही कह सकता हूँ कि things will not be clear until the nexus between the overground workers, जो कि basically who are silent, what I'll call silent covert terrorists, and the armed terrorists who are on the outside. जब तक ये link खत्म हो जाएगा तब तक I have to worry. I have to worry about our people. I have to worry about Kashmiris in general. I have to worry about security forces. I have to worry about anybody who believes in peace and prosperity of Kashmir. क्योंकि वो कनेक्शन अभी ब्रेक नहीं हुआ है, और ये बहुत ही बात बहुत बहुत सैड बात है कि जो पॉलिटिशियंस हैं कश्मीर के, वो अभी भी इस मामले में ज़्यादा नहीं बोलते। वो कहते हैं कि हमको इलेक्शन दे दो, हमको स्टेटहुड दे दो, मगर ये कोई नहीं एडमिट करता है कि गवर्नमेंट नहीं कर सकती है जब तक कि वो लिंक ना ब्रेकअप हो जाए बिटवीन द ओवरग्राउंड वर्कर्स एंड द टेररिस्ट, बिकॉज तब तक खतरा है, तब तक खतरा सबके पास है, ये कश्मीरी पंडित स्पेशली, दैट खतरा, दैट डेंजर विल नॉट गो अवे. And so अगर मेरी बात कोई सुनेगा तो मैं यही कहूँगा लोगों से कि आप इन डिमांड करिए इन अब्दुल्लाओं से और मुफ्तियों से कि आप एक तरफ से डिमांड कर रहे हैं कि आप हमें स्टेटहुड मिलना चाहिए, हमें इलेक्शन होने चाहिए, मगर आप खुद नहीं एडमिट कर सकते हैं कि ये हालत तब तक सॉल्व नहीं हो जाएगी जब तक कि वो पीस एंड सिक्योरिटी का इशू सेटल नहीं होगा. और वो सेटल नहीं हो सकता कि जब तक कि वो भी एडमिट न करें खुद कि ये बहुत इम्पोर्टेंट चीज़ है. देखिए फॉर एग्जांपल अभी हमारे कुछ सोल्जर्स मारे गए, इन सब ने इस टाइम डिनाउंस किया कि ये बड़ी बुरी बात है, नहीं होना चाहिए, मगर किसी ने ये नहीं कहा कि ये पाकिस्तान का तमाशा है, पाकिस्तान से ये ट्रेन आते हैं. वो जब तक वो वो हकीकत नहीं एक्सेप्ट करेंगे, पब्लिकली नहीं एडमिट करेंगे, मेरे ख्याल में गवर्नमेंट विल नॉट बी इन अ पोजीशन to hold elections or to even guarantee security of everybody until that issue is not settled.
जी विजय जी, अभी रिसेंटली बहुत सारे केपी ग्रुप्स एक गवर्नमेंट ऑफिशियल से मिले हैं, एलजी सर से मिले हैं, उनसे मीटिंग्स हुई हैं, लेकिन कुछ ऐसे ग्रुप्स हैं जो नहीं मिल पा रहे हैं। तो आपका क्या इस पे विचार है कि क्या होना चाहिए? क्या ये सभी ग्रुप्स को एक साथ मिलके एक ही आवाज में बात करनी चाहिए कि जैसे अभी इंडिविजुअली जा रहे हैं मिलने के लिए, तो उससे कुछ सोल्यूशन निकलने वाला है? योर कमेंट्स।
ऐसा है कि वो नहीं, क्राइटेरिया वो नहीं है, क्राइटेरिया ये नहीं है कि आप इतने ग्रुप्स हैं, ग्रुप्स तो हैं ही, आई मीन ग्रुप्स कहीं हर किसी कम्युनिटी में है। जो हमारी कम्युनिटी में बहुत परस्यूट होता है कि हमें यूनिटी चाहिए, एक्चुअली यूनिटी किसी ग्रुप में नहीं है, यूनिटी मुसलमान ग्रुप में नहीं है, किसी ग्रुप में नहीं। सो वो नहीं क्राइटेरिया, क्राइटेरिया वो नहीं है। क्राइटेरिया ये है कि आप कितने सीरियस हैं अपने मुद्दे के लिए, आप कितना फोकस करते हैं अपने ग्रुप को क्या करना चाहिए। गवर्नमेंट जो है ना, अब जेएंड के गवर्नमेंट बदल गई है, इट इज नॉट द सेम गवर्नमेंट जहां पर आप बड़े वो अपने रिश्तेदारों से या कनेक्शन से या वो कर सकते हैं। इट्स अ वेरी प्रोफेशनल गवर्नमेंट। द गवर्नमेंट इज एक्चुअली नाउ रन बाय वेरी मैच्योर पीपल. And I have sad to say that Kashmiri Pandits, by and large, still are not really understanding that you cannot deal with these situations in an emotive manner, in an emotionally, manner, or in an immature manner. You have to deal with the government in a very professional manner. So मेरी एडवाइस होगी, फोकस योर जो भी ग्रुप है, इट शुड हैव क्लियर कट आइडियाज आपकी, ये ग्रुप किस लिए बना है, इसका पर्पस क्या है, इसकी अचीवमेंट्स क्या हैं, और ये सब कन्वे करने के लिए गवर्नमेंट के इंटरलॉक्यूटर्स आपसे मिल सकते हैं और वो आपसे फोकस कर सकते हैं। मगर आप अगर कहें कि भाई मैं एक तरफ से मैं टेम्पल्स के लिए वरी करूंगा, दूसरी तरफ से मैं आई विल कंडक्ट ड्रग एजुकेशन एरेडिकेशन प्रोग्राम, ऐसा नहीं हो सकता। ये यू हैव टू बी फोकस्ड ऑन व्हाट योर गोल्स आर. जो people who have met the government, if you notice, they are all very singularly focused. अगर वो पीएम पैकेज एम्प्लॉइज हैं, उनकी और कोई ये इंटरेस्ट नहीं है. their interest is solely in betterment of future and betterment of पीएम पैकेज एम्प्लॉइज. वो इधर उधर में नहीं लगा सकते हैं कि वो हमें सिविल सोसाइटी काम भी करना है, वो काम भी करना नहीं. उसके लिए अगर सिविल सोसाइटी काम करना है, उसके लिए आप सिविल सोसाइटी ग्रुप बना दीजिए और वही उसी में आप डील कर सकते हैं. आप ये नहीं कह सकते कि वही हम इस पैकेज में भी हैं, उस पैकेज में भी हैं, उस पैकेज, ये उससे गवर्नमेंट बिल्कुल समझती है कि ये इनके इंटेंशंस उतने रेस्पेक्टेबल नहीं है. एज अ रिजल्ट उससे प्रॉब्लम हो जाती है.
जी विजय जी, आपने आपने पीएम पैकेज एम्प्लॉयज की बात की। जो पीएम पैकेज एम्प्लॉयज हैं वो कश्मीर में अपार्ट फ्रॉम देयर जॉब, जो उनकी जॉब है उसके बगैर भी बहुत सारे काम कर रहे हैं। जैसे रिसेंटली उन्होंने अपवास और अमीक, ये दोनों ग्रुप सामने हैं जो बहुत ज्यादा काम कर रहे हैं। अगर मैं अमीक की बात करूं तो अमीक जो जितने भी बड़े बड़े डिसीजंस गवर्नमेंट के आ रहे हैं उसमें उनका बहुत बड़ा योगदान होता है। अपवास श्रीनगर में है, जो रिसेंटली उन्होंने दशहरा पे बहुत बड़ा एक कार्यक्रम किया था ऑर्गेनाइज, जो कि मुझे लगता है हर साल वहां पे दशहरा होती थी, लेकिन इस साल बहुत बड़े पैमाने पे भी एक रथ यात्रा निकली, पूरी राम जी की यात्रा निकली है इंदिरा नगर से। तो इसे किस नजरिए से देखते हैं आप कि जो वहां पे लोकल बेस्ड जो हमारे कश्मीरी पंडित एम्प्लॉय जो हैं इस समय, तो उनके काम के बारे में क्या बोलेंगे? वो उस नजरिए से क्या देखेंगे आप, वो कैसा कर रहे हैं काम?
वेल, पीएम पैकेज, देखिए पीएम पैकेज एम्प्लॉयज को दे हैव टू शेड द इमेज ऑफ PM package employees. They are valley KPs. They should see themselves as valley KPs, not any different from valley KPs who were already there before them. जो 210 से पहले वहां थे, they should see themselves as the part of the same group, and they should deal together, work out these issues of, अगर आप if you're talking about temple management or temple maintenance or festival occasions and this kind of thing, that should be done, quite frankly, as a community member staying in Kashmir. It has nothing to do with PM package. PM package's focus is very shallow, narrow and focused. It is to get the best deal under the government order of 2009 ka jo tha, their job is to get the best deal under the order of 2009 and the implementing SRO 412. That is the focus of that group should be. There should be no other focus because that is what they're now. आप कह सकते हैं कि क्या जो उस पीएम पैकेज में काम करते हैं, पीएम पैकेज के एम्प्लॉइज हैं, क्या वो बाकी नहीं कर सकते? हाँ, कर सकते हैं, but not with the name of that group. That group is strictly for that purpose. And but agar aap civil, if you want to do social programs, you want to do cultural program, you set up a different organization. And my hope will be, अगर आप मुझे कहेंगे कि कैसे आप गवर्नमेंट के अटेंशन में आएंगे, if you create a group and you create that group which is inclusive of all the valley based KPs, independent of whether they are working for the government or they are not working for the government, but they are based in the valley, you will really get a lot of attention from people, because that is what is missing right now. Still a segregation between these people. Yes, सब valley based हैं. They should be looking at themselves as a unitary group.
जी जी। विजय जी, आप उन लोगों के लिए क्या एडवाइस देना चाहेंगे जो रिटर्न और रिहेबिटेट के लिए वापस जाना चाहेंगे शॉर्टेस्ट टाइम में? उनके लिए क्या एडवाइस होगी आपकी?
भाई ऐसा है ना कि गवर्नमेंट पॉलिसी, वी हैव टू फर्स्ट एक्सेप्ट, अंडरस्टैंड द गवर्नमेंट पॉलिसी. ये दिस इज आल्सो पार्ट ऑफ द चैलेंज ऑफ डीलिंग विद द गवर्नमेंट एंड गेटिंग dialogue with government going. You have to understand the government policy. हमारे लोगों को ये प्रॉब्लम है, they have a very sort of a childish, immature way of thinking कि how government will react or government should do. हम सब चाहते हैं कि हमारे सब विश लिस्ट हैं, ये करना चाहिए, वो करना चाहिए, ये हमारे लिए बेइंसाफी है, वो बेइंसाफी है, इसको ये सब है, ये सब हमारे को ही नहीं, ये तो मेरे ख्याल में half of the people of India have the same issue. ये प्रॉब्लम ये है कि पॉलिसी क्या है गवर्नमेंट की, और उस पॉलिसी को हम कैसे इस्तेमाल कर सकते हैं टू आवर एडवांटेज. दैट इज द चैलेंज. सो हम इन पॉलिसी नहीं इन्वेंट कर सकते. लास्ट टाइम जब मैं आपके शो पर आया था, मैंने 2 पॉइंट्स बोले थे, अमंग अदर थिंग. एक तो मैंने कहा था पॉलिसी बनाई गई है कि ये रिलोकेशन नहीं हो सकता. अब लोग वहां पर उस वक्त उनको बड़ा चमका रहे थे, आप एक दिन, आप 1 महीना और चलिए, आप 2 महीना और चलिए, गवर्नमेंट टूट जाएगी, वो हम्बल हो जाएगी. ऐसे नहीं, वो जमाना गया. नाउ नेशन इज रन बाय रूल ऑफ द लॉ, एंड द रूल ऑफ लॉ इज नाउ एक्सटेंडेड टू कश्मीर. You cannot change the policy simply by going on the street and demonstrating. ऐसे policy नहीं हो सके, especially for a group like ours which has really no political clout. So you have to first understand what the government policy is. And the government policy, they have already made a decision, rightly or wrongly. You see, this is the point. Now you can say, how can I change that policy? That's a different issue than than saying what the policy is and how we can best use it. Government has decided that by and large Kashmiri Pandits वापस नहीं आ रहे. They will not come back. And there are many reasons why they believe that. And let's be honest, people are settled outside. People are doing, in fact, much better than they were doing earlier. We still have unfortunate segments which are mostly in Jammu, but by and large, the community is doing better. In fact, it's one of the richest communities in India, but that's a separate issue which we can discuss some other time. The fact of the matter is the policy. So what is the policy now? The policy right now is we have essentially gotten these 6,000 employees and their families eventually. That is something that has a possible future in Kashmir. They may, people know that many of them have built houses in Jammu and are building probably houses in Jammu or elsewhere. But there's a hope that group will, so they will do their best to attract that group to stay back. Government is meaning they are well intentioned. They want to see that happen. Then there is this other group which is probably in the Jagti area and all that, which has also got people who have stayed put, and they really do have expressed many times that they would like to come back. But again, government basically saying that you are basically rent free in that area right now, and you want to come to Valley, you have to make an investment. अगर आप 5 मरले की land कर सकते हो, if you want to do that, then we can talk about how that land can be bought at a lower price. Same thing with respect to the PM package employees also. So that is the policy. Now you can say, oh, how can I fight that policy? Well, I can tell you, by demonstrating and by denouncing government, it will not happen. We don't have that kind of clout. Our way would be to give government an idea of how we can do it. One of the proposals, for example, I have suggested,
जी,
is that जो लोग वापस आना चाहते हैं, उनके पास जमीन है कहीं किसी गांव में. See, that is another thing. People are saying हम जी वापस जाएंगे जहां जहां पर जहां पर हम रहते थे, आप हमको वो 2 लाख या 7.5 लाख दे दीजिए जो जो आपके ऑर्डर में है. Government is not going to accept that anymore, because not the amounts. I'm not talking about the government is not going to let you live in an isolated manner anymore. The Modi government's biggest single imprint on the Kashmir policy was he made it very clear: I do not want to see a single Kashmiri Pandit killed in the valley. Now that is, of course, we have had 8 or 9 targeted killings, but by and large, it's still a record, enviable record, that it has not happened more. And so he is not. No officer is willing to give you sign a document says go and live in this remote village by yourself, and here are 2 lakhs or 6.5 lakhs or 7 lakhs, and go and do, or 15 lakhs for that matter. Right? They will not. What they will say is that you go and build a sort of housing development together, and we will then essentially see a framework where we can put these this cluster together somewhere which is defensible, and where we can put it. And most likely many of those places will probably now end up to be next to the where they are making transit housing, because transit housing now is in a government land, and there's more land available, government land available adjacent to those places. Now, if you have, as I said, if you have a piece of land somewhere in a remote village, you can ask the government, here, take that piece of land, or take 5 marlas or 6 marlas or 7 marlas from that land, and give me 7 or 8 marlas in a defensible area. That will be a trade, because they will not give you money to build anything on that 5 or 6 marla land, whichever you have in a remote part of the valley, because they will not take that risk of basically setting you up for a possible security threat victim in the future. So there are a lot of combinations and permutations one has to do within the framework of what the policies. One of the elements of the policies at one time, they were actually discussing that this amount of 7.5 lakhs should be increased to 20 lakhs, and that can again be a part of the discussion. But the key is people have to understand it will not be, there will be nothing free anymore. We have basically passed the point where we are going to get free housing in at one place, free housing in Kashmir. That doesn't work out. It will be subsidized. It has to be purchased, and of course, then the third pathway is the people who are actually actively looking for pieces of land to buy, and actually some have bought land, and may even start construction once the land issue is, the sale is all finalized and things like that. So rehabilitation return is not anymore where people just get up and say, rehabilitation, we want to go back, we will go back, we'll go back at our own time, in our own way, when we like, we have a right to go back. I mean, all those things, at the end of the day, we have to accept that bulk of the people are well settled, they are doing well. There are some unfortunate segments mostly in Jammu that need help. But the government policy is very clear. Their first goal is to attract the people who have come on the employment package, see how many of them can be attracted to buy the land at a subsidized rate and stay in the valley. They are also monitoring how many of them are actually building the houses in Jammu, so that they know that because they are fortunately many of the people who joined in 210 and to 12 they are actually drawing pretty good salaries, and so they are actually trying to see, see how we can essentially get their focus on being staying in the valley and starting these home,
जी
these what is this called,
विजय
these
जी,
housing complex.
यहाँ पे यहाँ
Right.
पे मेरे मन में एक प्रश्न
हाँ.
आया है कि जैसे आप बोल रहे हैं कि जो जम्मू में लोग रह रहे हैं, जो जगती में रह रहे हैं, वही वापस जाएंगे, और जो बाहर हैं वो तो पॉसिबिलिटी नहीं है कि वो वापस जाने की करें। लेकिन देखा जाए तो जो हमारे बाहर जम्मू जम्मू कश्मीर के बाहर से जो हमारे लीडर हैं,
हम्म.
वो किस बात पे क्लेम करते हैं कि हमें कश्मीर चाहिए, हम कश्मीर जाना है हमें, और डिसीजन मेकर वो कैसे बन जाते हैं? ये
नहीं
मेरा
तो,
एक पर्सनल बीइंग ए कश्मीरी
तो,
पंडित, मैं आपसे ये सवाल करता हूं
तो,
कि कश्मीर में अगर सिर्फ जम्मू कश्मीर के लोगों को ही जाना, जो जगती में रह रहे हैं उन्हीं को वापस मोस्टली वही जाएंगे, बाहर वाले नहीं जाएंगे। लेकिन क्लेम जम्मू से बाहर ज्यादा आता है। जो बाहर सेटल हैं, चाहे इंडिया इंडिया दिल्ली की बात करें या उसके बाहर फॉरेन की बात करें, वो लोग ज्यादा क्लेम करते हैं कश्मीर पे कि हम उनके अकॉर्डिंग टू देम कि कश्मीर कैसे वापस जाना है, वो क्लेम करते हैं। इसके बारे में क्या आप बात करेंगे?
ये तो see, this is the idiosyncrasies of our community. I mean, let's admit it. This is one of the big problems. जो मेरे, last time I expressed it in one of your shows only. I said कि हमें 33 years we have been out. None of the leaders has delivered one little piece. और ये सब जानकर वो उनको मालूम है that if they keep the slogan going, talk is cheap. Talk is cheap. और हमारे community members भी, they don't really demand performance. They don't really demand performance. उन्हीं का ask करते कि they don't ask these people क्या किया आपने अभी तक हमारे लिए. What have you done for us other than just made speeches and told us what's wrong with India, what's wrong with the Muslim world, what's wrong with the these Congress or BJP or whatever. But what have you done in terms of helping us? They don't even themselves want to understand the policy. I know leaders who are still talking about हमें कश्यप चाहिए, अपना कश्यप चाहिए, अपन कश्मीर चाहिए. I mean, these are all wasted times, wasted energies. That is not going to happen. We have probably the best and most favorable government right now, and people कहते हैं कि हम इनके पास, they don't have any idea what's going on. They don't have, no, they have already made it very clear what the plan is. The plan is very clear. The plan is that they don't expect a lot of people to come back. The people that they want to come back are basically the ones that you and I, Rohit just mentioned who they are, and that's what their focus is. Now, there is a long-term goal. The long-term goal also was, by the way, mentioned by Amit Shah ji in one of the first meetings he held with Kashmiri Pandit leaders in SKICC just a month and a half before the August 5th, 2019. And he said that my long-term goal is that if not your children or your grandchildren, but your great-grandchildren will one day somewhere sitting in Bangalore or Pune or Hyderabad, Tech City or somewhere, they will say, hey, Papa, why are we here? Why can't we go to Kashmir? Because Kashmir by that time would be so developed as a modern city that it will have all the amenities that any city in India has, plus you are in a
Right.
beautiful homeland of your own, in a national, so people will be drawn back. That is their
Right.
long-term goal. In the interim, the only goal is what I just mentioned to you. Also, ये जो लोग हैं who are in the middle, who are all building these crores and crores property in Gurgaon and Nayoda and all those places. They are the most vocal people saying, which really amounts to, sad to say it, I mean, I have to be frank, it's nonsense. They are just fooling the people. But a sad part is that our community accepts it. I mean, they don't really do anything about it, and just it just keeps, things just keep going the same as they were yesterday or the day before.
जी अ, विजय जी, इंडो अ, जो आपके एक 1991 में इंडो अमेरिकन कश्मीरी फोरम जो एस्टैब्लिश हुआ था, उसके बारे में हम जानना चाहेंगे कि उस कार्यकाल में क्या हुआ, और आज ये इंडो अमेरिकन कश्मीरी फोरम है कहाँ, और इन्होंने 91 से क्या-क्या अचीवमेंट्स हुए थे कम्युनिटी को लेके?
Yeah, I'm glad you have asked me this question. देखिए, uh, Indo-American Kashmir Forum was created obviously at the time when the events took place in the valley, which where one can argue amounted to genocide, and or ye to, this is 33-year old story, so a lot of people now have no memories, or or have conveniently forgotten, or actually the younger generation simply doesn't know that there was something, or there's always these new people that come up on the horizon, say they are reinventing the wheel. But today the wheel cannot be reinvented because the policy is already set. Quite frankly, you can't change the policy. If you have to work these days, you have to basically understand that policy and say, how can I fit my thinking and my plan of action consistent with that policy? But if you go back to that era, you have to understand, Rohitji,
जी,
people have a tough time probably understanding that the roles of, if you look at the, what I will call the geopolitics of that time, the geopolitics of that time was exactly reverse of what it is today. In other words, India was in a doghouse. India was like like a beggar. I mean, we had actually had to deposit gold in the Bank of England to get the sort of a line of credit to import goods in India. India was in such a bad shape, and of course, Pakistan was a darling because Pakistan had helped United States in Afghanistan. The money was flowing like water over there. They were all minting money like crazy, from the army to security forces to politicians, and India was in a doghouse. So it was exactly opposite. There were no Brahmin Indians and Microsoft and all those. There was really no reputation of India. India was kind of in the doldrums. So that's on one side. That's the geopolitical side. Then I will talk about what was the narrative about the Kashmir as a conventional narrative. Conventional narrative was that Kashmir is a issue in the United Nations, and India and Pakistan have fought many wars on it, and they are like two school children who basically keep fighting at each other, and headmaster, whether that is United States or any other country, they would come and say, hey, I don't want to hear your crap, just shut up. So we were basically being treated as children at basically doing their own fighting, on nitpicking and fighting. So nobody really cared. As far as they were concerned, Kashmir was at the UN matter. And finally, this is the most important, interesting part, and the most important part, which was the diplomacy side. In the diplomacy side, India position was, Pakistani position was that Indian security forces are killing Kashmiris, and Indian position was that no, Pakistan is sending terrorists in Kashmir. Now, if you notice in this whole exercise, there's no mention of Kashmiri Pandits or what
हम्म,
happened to them. And no, and it was not. It was. Of course, we had a terrible time in India. As I said, we had so many prime ministers coming and going. There was nobody knew who the next. And on prime minister's focus was on his gadi, his chair. He didn't really care what was happening to Kashmiri Pandits, or for the matter of anybody else. But the main thing was, they did not, unlike today, they did not let people know what was happening in Kashmir. So when we started our own advocacy campaign, and when I should here stop and reiterate, there was not just me. I was the president for a long time, and one of the founders, but there were other presidents before me, and then and after me, and also a very dedicated team of Kashmiri Pandit brothers and sisters who were part of our team. And so when I say I really mean we. But sometimes I'll slip and just say I. But I just want to admit that it's not just a one-man show. And so when we went to talk to the people, there was only one congressman who was a India supporter. His name was Stephen Solars. He was a Democrat, and even he got confused because after we told him how Indian government is avoiding us and not recognizing what is happening to Kashmiri Pandits, at the end of this long presentation, he says, looks at me and says, Vijay, are you guys with India or Pakistan? He couldn't
हम्म,
figure out, what was going on. Of course, there were others who said bluntly, "You are Hindus. How can you tell me Hindus are getting, being butchered in Kashmir?" Or the other one was even worse. Where he said, what those people said, "Are there Hindus in Kashmir? We never heard of that." This is the first time you are telling. So we started with that background, and it was a lot of work. We were doing a lot of. The tragedy is there was not a recognition given by the government of India, and so not much was actually coming in the Indian press as we were making these presentations at various places. And really, our first success came in 1992 when Washington Post, which is a major newspaper of the United States and actually one of the leading newspapers in the world, covered us and said, and it was a very nice way they covered us because they had talked to the Indian ambassador and they had admitted, yes, Kashmiri Pandits have been affected, but we don't want to talk about it. This is the Indian ambassador in Washington telling him, we don't want to talk about it because we don't want to bring a religion concept or religion in this discussion. It's a thing between India and Pakistan. We want to leave it at the state level. So he admitted that yes, Kashmiri Pandits are victims, but Indian government has chosen not to talk about them. And then the next big achievement that we got was we were invited in 1992 also for a congressional hearing on human rights in Kashmir. Now, the only thing, of course, was they had also not Pakistani, a Kashmiri Muslim, Ghulam Nabi Fai, who spoke after me, and I spoke before him. But at least we got recognition. I mean, they were spending money like water. Pakistan was putting, he was an ISI agent, as we know now later, and they were putting money like water. And here, we had nobody supporting us, and we had come on our own through the process, working very hard. I mean, very solid team that worked hours, endless hours, connecting, mailing, sending people, walking to the halls, talking to people, and we got this presentation. And then fortunately, we had a break. We had a good break because two things happened. One is a Pakistani guy takes an AK-47 and stands outside the CIA headquarters in Washington and shoots CIA agents entering the offices at 10 o'clock in the morning, and kills a few, and then runs away. And of course the cameras caught him, and they know who it was. It took a long time before they found him in Pakistan, and actually they nabbed him from Pakistan. But that was one, and the second one was that the World Trade Center was bombed. This is not the big bombing. This is actually bombing at the garage, and that happened. So thirdly, they started thinking, there is something like Islamic terrorism. They had not really considered the idea there was something like Islamic terrorism. We were the first person saying it. And by the way, when I used that term in my congressional hearing, I got a call from the embassy saying that ambassador wants to talk to you. And I went to the embassy, and he said there is no such thing as a Islamic terrorism. It's an oxymoron word. This is the Indian ambassador talking to me in 1992, and I was declared persona non grata. I was not invited to any functions until Mr. Siddharth Shankar Ray became the ambassador many years later. So to give you the background of what we were dealing with at that time, this time it is fun to talk about, hey, I know this person from BJP, I know this person, minister. Heck, we were not getting any recognition, and we were making these breakthroughs. We reached to the point actually when we were invited to a bipartisan breakfast meeting where we spoke in Congress, and we had congressmen from, let's say, Congress Party and BJP both together in that meeting. So we started getting recognition slowly. Slowly we started getting recognition. And then in 1997, the first time the U.S. State Department report on human rights came out, which recognized that Kashmiri Pandits had been expelled or had been thrown out of Kashmir. So that was a major achievement. Now I'll tell you one thing. So this is once we established that track of traceability, then we could get some more traction with the government. This is very important now because years 2001 and 2005 are really defining years. We are in a position where we are actually, somebody is listening to us, and in particular there were two Congressmen Sherrod Brown and Frank Pallone from New Jersey, Sherrod Brown from Ohio. They really took up our cause. I mean, I have literally hundreds of messages and letters and whatnot they communicated to the Indian government, both in Washington as well as in New Delhi. But the interesting thing was, you can say, what was the test that you really were actually accepted as being that person? That happened when I got a call in April of 2001. This is after Mr. Vajpayee, who had become the prime minister. I got a call in 2001 because I was sitting in a meeting discussing the Islamic terrorists like Yasin Malik and all that, and suddenly the guy tells me, "I don't know what you're talking about, but Yasin Malik has been just given a passport, and government of India has requested a visa for him to come to United States." It shocked the core out of me. Anyway, I made a lot of noise, but I mean, I couldn't change it. I mean, that was a policy that was already made in Delhi. They gave, this murderer, Yasin Malik, the passport to come to the United States. But I did get a call a few days later saying, okay, you made a lot of noise. We want you to be the one who basically offers the counterpoint of view to him when he speaks. So he spoke at a U.S. government-funded think tank, CSIS, and I was the selected person from them being the government of the United States, to speak as a counter to him. So you can see our credibility is going higher and higher, and somebody in the government is actually beginning to think about Kashmiri Pandits. And then in 2001, as I said, a couple of things happened since we became very close to both Sharad Brown and to Congressman Frank Pallone. They started sharing with us their concern that maybe the Indian government is not, this is not the Indian government under Mr. Vajpayee, is not really on a right track. One of the things was the Agra summit was handled very poorly by India. This was Musharraf. I'm not going to go into that. I have an article on it in my website. And then the parliament attack that took place in December 2001. Now, a parliament attack was not a big deal in the sense you could expect that from Lashkar, but the fact Indian government did not react to it, it was like as if nothing happened. And here you have basically your citadel of democracy has been attacked. Nothing happened. And so I have in conversations where they're saying, what kind of a prime minister is he? He doesn't have any emotions. He doesn't have, how can he help you guys? And then there's all kinds of massacres taking place, Rohitji. Then Nadi happens on 25th March 2003. Nadi in Pulwama district. So we have 24 people who are killed, 11 men, 11 women, and 2 boys, young boys. It's a horrific accident. Now, what makes it even more tragic? What makes it even more tragic is that the Prime Minister Vajpayee comes to Kashmir just 2 weeks later, on 18th of April 2003, and this is where he made that famous speech of Jamhuriyat, Hurriyat, and all that stuff, which even Mehboobaji even today says is the most fantastic thing that happened. The reality is that was one of the most tragic things that he did, because he didn't utter a single word about Kashmiri Pandits. You had 22 Nadimar, you had a massacre just 2 weeks earlier, and you don't say a word about Kashmiri Pandits. Do we count? But I will tell you, there was reaction in India, at least among the Kashmiri Pandit leadership about it. But more importantly was it convinced Pallone, literally convinced Pallone. He said, if I am of any nature, I'm going to make Indian government make sure that Kashmiri Pandits get their due. So he started the process actually at that time of thinking how he is going to basically get Indian government squeezed. And this was Vajpayee's government, and what he's going to do about it. And one of the things that happened was that there was so he initiated through government sources a track to diplomacy on Kashmiri Pandits, and Mr. B. Raman, who retired as the head of the counterintelligence of ARA, India's external intelligence agency. All of a sudden, usually after you lose your diplomatic status, you don't really get to be invited to the United States, especially somebody like Mr. Raman, who is actually, was very anti-American. He and I had been in touch for a long, long time before. And I will recognize here Mr. Jeevan Zuchi, one of our executive directors of Indo-American Kashmir Forum. Through his help, we got the meeting, public meeting going. Well, privately, he basically did meet with Mr. Pallone, and Pallone very much told him, "You are part of the Indian establishment. You go back there and you tell them that I'm going to turn on the screws through the U.S. government if you don't do anything about Kashmiri Pandits." Rohitji, I am disclosing this thing for the first time on your network. What transpired there? I'll give you more details. And as a result, the first thing that happened was Congressman Pallone and Congressman Brown first of all wrote a letter to Vajpayee. And that letter was, how the heck can you be in Kashmir and not talk about Kashmiri Pandits? And he there was no mention of it anywhere, and so they decided to go public. So they actually went public with the letter. The letter was then made public, and I can tell you, I have a couple of comments that came in the press, and I don't know if people can read this, but it says Vajpayee's apathy to Kashmiri Pandits upsets Pallone and Brown. Then there's another one here which says U.S. lawmakers concerned about our Pandits' plight. So they made it public. Then after that, as I said, Mr. Raman came over. Raman was given told to go back and to make a point. Now this is a very important thing, because over the period of all these years, we have had four key opportunities where we could have helped Kashmiri Pandits in a big way. And I am going to talk about three of them ended up in a failure. Maybe we can have a program someday where I can discuss what those three programs were. But this was the fourth one. And I'll tell you, this one succeeded. And the reason why it succeeded is because because of a wonderful man in Delhi who is now passed away. His name is Shubhanji Duda. Shubhanji Duda was a social activist, political strategist, one of the finest gentlemen we had in our community. And he was associated with All India Kashmiri Samaj. Pallone comes to me. He says, I have an opportunity to go to Delhi and I want to meet with Vajpayee in that meeting. And I want to tell him face to face, eyes to eyes, that you have to better help Kashmiri Pandits or we are going to raise ruckus in the United States. But he said, I want to do something more. I want to come out from that meeting and then I want to have a meeting with Kashmiri Pandits. And I want to make sure that that meeting is well advertised so that they know about it. So what happens is that as I said, this is the fourth. There are three similar opportunities that I had involving very senior United Nations, not only U.S. officials but United Nations officials also, which were blown up by our communities. So as I said, don't want to talk about those three. But this fourth one, I called Shubhanji, and that time Mr. Kaur was the president of All India Kashmiri Samaj. He said, don't worry, I'll take care of it. These people here are all highbrow people, Sazawal, what can the hell does he know? He's sitting there 15,000 kilometers away and he's telling us how to run the business of Kashmiri Pandits in New Delhi and all that. But Duda, to his distinct credit, told me, I'll take care of it. I'll convince all these people to come. I said, no, it better be a good group. And I have the notes. I have the notes from that meeting. Let me tell you the names of the people that were present there. This meeting took place on 10th January 2004. 10th January 2004. There was Sunil Shakdarji. Sunilji was there. There was the Mr. Juttu Saab was there. There was Mr. M.L. Cole, General Secretary of AIX was there. As I said, Mr. Hashia was there, Vice President, Kashmir Sevak Samaj, KSS. Mr. B.L. Kachru was there from KPUF. So you had a good gathering, and it got a good publicity. The message was conveyed loud and clear. And when they came back, I think Vajpayee Saab got a clear idea that he better be doing something about it. And so as a result, after that meeting, this was in January 2004. So he comes back and gives me a briefing. This is Pallone, and says, Vijay, I can assure you things are under normal. Vajpayee is a very popular man. He's doing really good. India is shining. That was a slogan, and so you should be done. And of course, unfortunately, for better or worse, Mr. Vajpayee loses the election. So I end up going to Pallone and saying, what do we do now? He says, no, I'm sure the bureaucrats in Delhi know what we are thinking, so government may change. But here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to send a confidential letter to Mr. Manmohan Singh. Besides giving him congratulations, I will tell him, things that have happened about Kashmiri Pandits that need to be taken up at the earliest possibility. He didn't. That letter never made it to public. But I can tell you, he did send me a copy of it, and asked me to hold off. So I'm going to hold off. But the point is that he came back and said, it's okay. The Manmohan Singh government is actually very amenable to doing something for Kashmiri Pandits. So let's set the record straight. He sent the letter on the 24th of August 2004, and in October, just 2 months later, the Indian cabinet approves the creation of the interagency task force, which was headed by Sushma Chaudhary IAS from the government's, central government's body that basically makes the planning commission. That was that time it was called planning commission. So she's from there, and this does in 2004. So the process has started. Now, of course, there are a lot of people who believe it was done by A, B, or C in Delhi, or it was done by A, B, or C, D in Delhi, Jammu, or whatever. So I'm not going to argue with anybody. But my own confidence says it happened because of the United States pressure. It happened because of the United States government. It would not have happened if, quite frankly, if Mr. Vajpayee would not have made that speech earlier about insaniyat and jamhuriyat and all that stuff, and forgot that we Kashmiri Pandits have suffered quite a bit. There were some people, at least, who became our angels at that time. And I believe personally that the U.S. government had a lot to do with, and it was mostly by Frank Pallone and Sherrod Brown who were instrumental in it. Now, what happens here? It's not the end of the story. Then, of course, in October that happens. Then Sushma Chaudhary follows that for a visit to the camps in Jammu in November, 18th November 2004. Just a month later, Mr. Manmohan Singh shows up in the Jammu, visits the Muthi camp. So the process started. And here's the thing. And then in 2005, early 2005, U.S. Embassy in Delhi acknowledges me as one of the advisors on Kashmir. And that came out. They had other names also. There are other names also, among them Kashmiri Pandits, also in that list. But I was the only one who was not actually based in India. I was the only one who was based outside. And this we know this letter came out. It was a confidential cable because WikiLeaks approved it, has leaked it, and you can see it on the Google if you want to do it. Then I think the sweetest part was, quite frankly, again Yasin Malik shows up in the Washington D.C. and again I'm asked to come and give a counterpoint to him this time again. So there I am giving a counterpoint. All those, by the way, all those documents are on my website, kashmirforum.org. And so I do that in the thing. But to me the biggest surprise was that in December I get a letter from the head of the Indian National Advisory Council. This is the security head of the Indian government, a lady by the name of Mrs. Sonia Gandhi. She sent me a letter, basically appreciating, thanking me. This is the letter that came in. I don't know if you people can see this is from her staff, and this is a letter that came in showing me appreciation for having done for Kashmiri Pandits. I have never disclosed this letter so far to anybody. This is the first time I'm disclosing it. And then one.
आप एक बार फिर दिखा सकते हैं लेटर को?
Sure. I'll read it also if you want me to.
Okay. Please read it.
This letter is signed by Dheeraj Srivastava, officer on special duty. It's the Government of India National Advisory Council, New Delhi. Dear Shri Sazawal, I am desired to acknowledge with thanks the receipt of your letter dated 14th November 2005, addressed to Srimati Sonia Gandhi, Chairperson, National Advisory Council, and to convey Chairman's appreciation for the support of the forum. Yours sincerely. Right. And so this is the letter. This is the envelope, and then I actually did because of the encouragement involved, I did actually make a trip to India because I was involved much in the nuclear talks also at that time. So I used to go to India very frequently, though it was not publicly that well known. But anyway, I was in India, and Prime Minister Manmohan Singh ji also invited me for a meeting at the Seven Racecourse, Seven Lok Kalyan Marg, as it's called now, on 18th of January 2006. So I met with the Prime Minister. I had a very good conversation, and again thanked me for a lot of work that had gone in there. As I said, I have never disclosed this before. I didn't want to kind of do a promotion here, but I did think it was appropriate for people to at least know the facts as I'm sharing with you. I am never not saying this was the only thing that didn't matter, but I think it was a big part of that effort. Now, my
Right.
my efforts did not end there, Rohitji, because my
Okay.
focus was still on the valley based uh, uh, valley based people, and I didn't see that happening with either Mrs. Sushma Chaudhary or Manmohan Singh. They were all focused on the people who were outside. So when the 2008 package was announced, 2008 PM relief package was announced, 1618 crores and 3,000 jobs. There was nothing for Kashmiri Pandits in the valley. So I arranged a meeting. So I had been cultivating Omar Abdullah for some time before that, until that election that took place, and then he became the chief minister. And actually, 3 days later, he was in Srinagar because it was January. It was in Jammu that where they selected him. So it's 8th of January 2009, and I met him at his official office in Srinagar on the boulevard, and I had with me the leaders of the community from the Valley community, which was the basically two organizations at that time: Hindu Welfare Society Kashmir, which was headed by Mr. Shri Motilal Bhat, and of course the Kashmir Samiti Sangarsh Samiti by Sanjay Tikku. So they were with me, and we met uh, with Mr. Umar Abdullah, and we went over, and he had actually brought a good bit of people. He had brought with him Rana Saab, because who was his assistant or sidekick at that time. Mr. Sugami was with him, Minister Sugami, as was Khurshid Ganai, who was his personal secretary at that time. And we went over the whole thing about how to help Kashmiri Pandits, and he promised that he will act on it. The As he told me later, I met Umar Abdullah later in Washington, and as he told me that he said I was preempted by the fact that once they received the package 2008 Prime Minister's relief package, and I was asked to put work on that. This focus on Kashmiri Pandits of the valley got lost, and so it never went through. So essentially, when the cabinet decision was taken on 1st of October 2019, and SRO 412 was issued on 30th December 2009, there was no mention of Kashmiri Pandits from the valley. And if you remember, the that didn't happen until SRO 425 was done with 2017, and I will credit Sanjay Tikku ji for a lot of work that was done in that. But we were together working as he is my younger brother in this effort. Apex committee was formed in between all that. I'm not going to go into those details, but the fact is that I have spent personally a lot of time and effort in helping the valley people, in getting them going. And in now, as we see these packages of 2010, 2012, 2020, I'm doing my best to give them the guidance, tell them understand how the system works in Delhi, and not be fooled by these so-called leaders who really have no good view to attend, because they don't even understand what the policy of the central government is.
Right.
And this government, I'm telling you, all said and done, this BJP government is probably the best government that our community can have. And I'll also tell you that our best hope is to have some kind of a concerted effort, as long as it's a UT. UT is the best thing that has happened to Kashmiri Pandits. If once we lose the UT, I think we'll lose our priority in the system.
राइट। विजय जी, मेरा आखिरी सवाल आपसे ये होगा, अगर हम एक्सपेक्ट करते हैं कि सरकार हमारे लिए क्या कर रही है, सरकार हमें क्या दे रही है, तो क्या हमारा फर्ज इंडिविजुअली कुछ नहीं बनता कि हम अपने देश को, अपने सरकार को क्या दे रहे हैं? आपका इस बारे में क्या बोलना है?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, यही मुझे सबसे हैरानियत यही हो जाती है कि जब मैं आपको I'll give you an example. I was trying to help some Kashmiri Pandit employee package people, getting them with ideas, and one guy comes back first time I'm meeting him. One guy says, "What is in it for me?" That's what he said. These are his exact words. What
राइट,
is in it for me? In other words, जब तक ने मुझे मतलब वी आर सो इंडिविजुअलिस्टिक, मतलब सब ये कोई नहीं, कम्युनिटी का कोई नहीं समझता, नेशन का
बिल्कुल,
कोई नहीं समझता, दे ऑल से ये मुझे 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 याद है जब मैं व्हेन मुझे अपॉर्चुनिटी एक साथ मिली टू मीट विद मिस्टर मुफ्ती, एंड मैंने जम्मू में मैं उस वक्त प्रमोट कर रहा था आइडिया कि दैट एटलीस्ट वी शुड हैव अ कैबिनेट मिनिस्टर, मोर कैबिनेट मिनिस्टर्स इन दैट। तो सब बंदे जम्मू में मुझे कहते हैं कि भाई मुझे थोड़ी बनना मिनिस्टर, तो मैं व्हाई डू आई वरी अबाउट इट, मुझे नहीं फिक्र है। So
राइट,
this is a big problem. We have a big problem. And I think the thing that where we are at fault is leadership. We have a real leadership deficit in our community. फॉर एग्जाम्पल अभी अगर आप मुझसे पूछेंगे कि अगर if you really want to come in big numbers in Kashmir, the only way right now is not through government jobs. Government jobs तो कम होते जा रहे हैं. They are actually it is to come through that financial packages. We have what 86,000 crores of investment packages have been given to the government, out of which they will probably select 35 to 45,000 crores. अगर हमारी लीडरशिप राइट होती ना, and this leadership, I'll tell you, this leadership that I'm talking about is the leadership that we need in Delhi, because Delhi leadership is the one that has to pamper and draw in the wealthy Kashmiri Pandits into a group. उनको जो जिनके पास पैसा है, and I can tell you our community is among the richest in India on a per capita basis. आप किसी मीडिया सेंटर में जाइए, किसी मीडिया हाउस में जाइए, कश्मीरी पंडित इज ईदर द सीईओ or he is the COO or he is the CFO, almost everyone. And same thing in most of the other advertisement companies, most of the engineering companies. They are not necessarily CEOs, but they are very high but our problem is we have not drawn those kind of people where you have to actually allow those people to come out, because they are not going to come. Yet वो तो सब सोचते भाई why should I go and jump into the well to help the Kashmiri Pandits? मुझे इस पर याद आता है, I don't want to digress too much, but I will tell you a little story. I was once we had a DC Badgam by the name of Vinod Tusuji, and Vinodji became, before that he was the relief commissioner. जब मैं उसे मिला, I met him in 2006 in Budgam, and he asked me to come, and so I came in the room, and in the room there are like, in his office there are like 70 or 80 fellows. They're all Muslims, and he was really berating them. उनको कह रहा था कि तुम लोगों को अकल नहीं है, तुम लोग पैसा corruption चाहिए. I mean, he's giving them help. And I'm telling myself, there's not even one security guard anywhere around in this room. And so after they left, and we had tea in a side room. I said, aren't you scared of, these guys one guy can get up and say, what nonsense are you talking about? Whatever. And he said, अरे भाई, मैं तो relief commissioner office से graduate हुआ हूँ. जो वहाँ होता था रिलीफ कमीशन ऑफिस जम्मू में, ये तो किंडरगार्टन स्टफ है उसके कंपैरिजन में. So we have a problem, but Delhi we really need to have draw in an advisory team of our rich people, find out, can we draw some proposals that government will accept, because we did actually ask LG other day, in that package, do you have any Kashmiri Pandit proposals? He said, no, we don't have any Kashmiri Pandit proposals in that package. But we have to tell them, that's how our boys and girls will follow. If we can get them, they're opening new industrial areas in the valley, and a lot of investment is taking place right now. Kashmir is a changed place, as you yourself said at the beginning of the thing. It's not the same thing. People have to get out of their minds. Where should I go? I mean, I was in, 6 months back, I was at a meeting in Washington. I'm sorry, in Pennsylvania, and a Kashmiri Pandit comes to me. Can I go to Kashmir? Do you think I'm going to be killed? That image has to be changed. It's not like that, as I said earlier, it's not that and you can guarantee anybody's safety there, but it's like anything else. You have 2 million visitors coming in. Kashmiri Pandits have to wake up. This is not anymore, 10 years back, you were giving the same slogan that you are going today, and our community is accepting it. We have to have a dynamic leadership. Our leadership in Delhi is dismal. It's really bad. And we, they think, issuing emails and press releases and writing articles is the highest caliber of leadership. The fact is, we need people who can draw in the financial side, people who can create jobs in the valley, where we can benefit from that kind of thing. But that's not happening. So I don't know what to say. This is a major leadership challenge in our community that has existed for the last all those years, and now of course it is impacting very, very negatively on our people.
Yeah. विजय जी, बहुत बहुत धन्यवाद आपका, आपने हमें समय दिया, और उम्मीद करते हैं कि हमारे दर्शकों को भी बहुत पसंद आएगा, और कुछ ऐसे फैक्ट्स आपने बताया जो आज तक उनको पता नहीं था, और बहुत जल्द हम उम्मीद करते हैं कि आप फिर से हमें समय देंगे और टीआरएन पे फिर से आप बातचीत करेंगे. फिलहाल आपका बहुत बहुत धन्यवाद विजय जी.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Again, I'm appealing to when you put it on the system, if anybody has any questions, they should ask. Go to my website. There's a place there where you can send a message, and I'll promise you, every message that I receive, I will be replying that in kind. The website is kashmirforum.org.
ओके. उसके साथ साथ कुछ और सवाल अगर आपके मन में होंगे दर्शकों के, आप जरूर पूछ सकते हैं, और नेक्स्ट सेशन में हम जरूर इनसे बात करेंगे, आपके सवाल इनके सामने रखेंगे. तब तक बहुत बहुत धन्यवाद आप सबका. देखते रहिए द राइट न्यूज. बहुत जल्द फिर से मुलाकात होगी. थैंक यू सो मच.
Thank you very much. Goodbye.